G'day guys, welcome to a video that I've been promising for some time. For people who've been out in the field with me and travelled with me and done workshops with me, this is probably the most requested video that I have. It's often that I'm out in the field and I notice that people have dust bunnies on their sensor and they're scared to clean it. But then also just the general cleanliness of your camera is really important. I haven't cleaned this Z9 since before I went to Kenya in November last year. And before then, I'm not even sure. What I have noticed over the last few weeks is that I've got a few dust bunnies myself and I'm off to a big commercial job for the next 2 days. So I thought what better time to show you guys my process. So I've got all the things that you'll need laid out here. My camera and lens that I'm going to clean with the lens cap and body cap on. A dust blower with a filter. So these are by Visible Dust, really good quality. A sensor cleaning kit, 2 or 3 edgeless microfibers. My secret weapon, which you might laugh, but it's actually an old paintbrush that does a fantastic job of getting into the nooks and crannies. And any version of just a general soft home surface cleaner. So first things first, we really want to get into taking all of the permanent fixtures off the camera. If you have a L bracket on your camera, now's the perfect time to get it off. If you haven't had it off for a while, there's probably going to be signs of corrosion on the metal and all sorts of things. They can get a bit stuck to the camera like this one. Once you get it right, you can hear that come off. Really important to take all the accessories off. So I'm just going to put this out of the way. The other thing that you can take off on the Z9 is the eye cup, which is another spot where we gather up a lot of dust and stuff. I'm not going to worry about these. I'm not going to worry about anything else. But before we even look at cleaning the sensor, unless it's an emergency in the field, one of the first things we want to do is really clean the body well. Because the minute that we open this up, we want to make sure there's no new dust or anything to fall in. My very first step is always to grab one of these microfibers. Now, I buy these in bulk from an auto parts store. They're about 12 inches square. They don't have any edges or seams on them. And buying them in bulk is amazing because you can use them for your camera gear today and then re-clean them or just use them for rags around the house. And just a gentle surface cleaner. So it doesn't really matter what brand here. And you don't have to be too particular about it because all we're doing is just that, just a quick little spray to dampen this. And we're going to start by rubbing the whole body with this. And we don't want to rub hard. We don't want to be super firm. But what we're doing here is we're just trying to remove any of the excess dirt that could easily be removed. You don't want this to be soaking your camera. It just needs a light spray. And what you'll notice is you'll just see your rubbers and things start to look a little bit shiny and wet. That's all we want. We don't want this dripping. Most chemicals can affect the rubber on your camera, particularly sunscreen and bug spray. So there's a trap for young players. But what you'll notice is after you've gone over it a couple of times and you inspect the rubbers and things, like mine here's got quite a bit of wear and some of the rubbers are sort of just lifting a bit, but that's the nature of it. I didn't take this battery out, so I'm going to take that out and wipe around here. You'll get to a point where you're probably not really seeing any benefit, and that's all we really want to do with this. And it's probably not going to show up on the camera, but this is quite dirty. And as you'd expect, right, from a camera that hasn't been cleaned for months. I won't use this rag again. I'll do the same process on my lens though, but after I've used this for this first initial clean, I won't use this rag again on my camera gear. I'll just keep it as a rag around the house. And that's just purely to make sure whatever crazies I've pulled off the camera in this step, and the lens in this case, don't make it back towards the camera. And the lens is comes up a treat just after a wipe. You can see it, it's quite good. So this one goes, it's gone. Now, a lot of people are tempted here to get compressed air or something into their camera. This is where this comes in. I couldn't tell you where or how I discovered this, but what I know is these big wide paintbrushes, and you can see I actually painted the gallery here with this one. They have a really nice fine top. And the best thing you can do is just literally like I'm doing here, just gentle. And what it does is it gets all the crap out from around the buttons and all the areas that a rag can't touch. And what I've found is that this soft bristle here actually does a really good job of picking up stray oils and all of the things that might end up on your camera. We just want to go all over the camera with this, open up all the doors and all of the things that you can open, like the side doors, although they shouldn't be too bad if you leave them closed. And what you'll notice is it just gets cleaner and cleaner every time you buff this over, because what it's doing is removing all that micro stuff. And it does a really good job. Make sure you focus on these areas at the front of the camera where your fingers go in and dust goes around that lens cap or the camera cap. This looks like brand new. It is phenomenal how good those 2 steps will make your camera look. And that second step, just make sure there's no remaining oils or any of the stuff left on your camera to make it look dingy. That's the first step done. Like, it's really that simple. Unless your camera is super grotty, I would never use compressed air because that's going to push dust and things into places that you can't get it out. And there's potential, I guess, for it to damage weather sealing and things like that. The next step is to start thinking about cleaning your sensor. Now, I'm not going to do a test shot first. I know for a fact that this sensor has at least one really big hair on it. So I'm going to put the battery back in. Every camera is a little bit different here, but what we need to do is either, if you have a digital SLR, put it into sensor cleaning mode. If you have a new mirrorless camera that doesn't have a sensor shield, then it'll be fine. You can just turn it off and clean the sensor. But I know that this Z9 has a sensor shield and you have to tell it to stay open when you turn the camera off. So here's the scary bit for most people. I've turned the camera off. I'm going to take this cap off. And there's my sensor. So the thing with the dirty sensor is it can look super clean even though it's not. I can actually see the hair on this, and being under some really nice light here, it's very easy to see. The first thing I'll do every time is flip my camera upside down and give it probably half a dozen or more good blows with the blower. And always do this with your camera upside down, because if it does dislodge something off the sensor, it will fall out. That's the idea. First step's done. I can actually see that it's dislodged that. How do you decide whether your sensor really needs cleaning? This is a really important thing. So a lot of people don't know how to check how clean your sensor is, and I'm going to teach you a really quick way here to do it. So I've got my lens. I'm going to put my lens on my camera. What we need to do is we need to stop our lens down to the maximum aperture number, so the smallest aperture we possibly can in that lens. We want a nice long exposure here, so we're going to go down to our lowest ISO. We're going to focus at infinity, so there's nothing to be in focus near the camera. And I've got a piece of copy paper here. Now, when I trigger this shutter, I'm just going to move this copy paper around, because copy paper, or all papers, have a bit of texture in them. And I'm going to move it around so that there's no texture captured by the camera. When I look at that image, it gives me a really clear version of what is on the sensor. And that may sound crazy, but because we're focused out at infinity and because we've got no texture from that paper because we're moving it around, we actually get a really good image, and I'll put it up on the screen right now, of what is on our sensor. And when I zoom into this sensor's pretty dirty, which I would expect. It's time now to clean the sensor. You can buy these kits in all different types and sizes. I really like these visible dust kits. If you are in Australia and want to buy one, you can get them from my website. But they come with a couple of different fluids and sensor swabs, which are sized for your sensor. It's important that you get the right one. So this is a full frame kit. So these swabs are set up for a full frame camera. And I'm going to go straight to the red liquid, which is the extra strong one. Now that I've got a swab here and I've got my liquid here, the camera is turned off. We're going to take the lens off and put it down here with the cap sitting on it so it doesn't get any crud in it. I can actually see all the little spicks and specks on this sensor because I've got a light just here for this video. It's really important that you do this in good light. Now these swabs are a single use only. Don't ever use them more than once. You can see they're in a packet. They're dust sealed so you can't get any crud in there. And you never ever obviously want to touch the swab surface. Grab your swab out, get your liquid, take this little bizzo off. And what I like to do is just put just a couple of tiny drops on this. So you don't want it wet, you just want it damp. But the idea is you can actually see these go a little bit translucent because it's damp. There is a technique to this. We want to get on the sensor and we want to drag it across this way and finish in the corner. Then without lifting it, drag across the other way and finish in the other corner. That's one use. Remember that these are sized for your sensor. So I'm starting in this corner. I'm dragging it across gently and then I'm going to end it standing up in this corner. And then I'm going to pull it over and I'm going to drag it back. And that's it. What you may find is you may actually need to do more than one clean if your sensor's really dirty. But more often than not, if you get that technique right, we let the sensor dry because it's actually like an alcohol. We're going to put the lens back on the camera and we're going to do our same process where we have about an 8-second exposure. We're going to move this around till our exposure's done. And we're going to have a bit of a look at how clean this is. And this is so much cleaner. There are still a couple of specks on there, which I would expect because I haven't done this for a while. So we're going to do the same process again, remembering single use. So the trick is to repeat this process with these swabs until you're ready and you're happy that the camera is completely clean. Once you're completely satisfied with your sensor, which should only take 2, maybe 3 max, it's time to start thinking about cleaning the other stuff up. So I'm not going to take this lens back off this camera now, and I think it's a really good time to talk about this. The only time you'll get a dirty sensor is when you're changing lenses. It's always important to make sure you have these caps on your camera and your lens, and it's really important that you minimize the amount of exposure that your camera and your lens have without these caps or joined together. If you're out in the field and it's dusty and you need to change a lens, it's handy to have one of these and blow around here. This is where the dust comes in, and then from the environment. So there's only about 2 things left here till my camera is ready to go. It's to grab a nice new one of these. It's to blow the stuff that moves directly off the lens. And then gently clean the lens. So I don't use lens cleaning fluid. I don't believe in it. These lenses have really special coatings on them. And I've seen lenses where people have used the wrong gear to clean it and it will wipe the coating off and it completely ruins that front element. So generally one of these cloths clean, or a proper lens chamois or something like that, is enough to get this completely spotlessly clean, enough that I would never worry about it. If for some reason you have a really dark smear or you have something on your camera that you can't get off, I've often just fogged up the lens and then just use that little bit of moisture that your lens has to clean it. And you can see that that lens is immaculately clean. I don't run protection filters on my camera. I don't believe I need them. I actually believe that in some cases, they lead you to not clean your lens enough and they cause issues with flaring and all sorts of things. So we have a lens and a camera completely cleaned and ready to go. The last thing we have to do is to put any accessories back on. So this L bracket is so dirty, it's crazy. It's got sand and dirt. We can grab that dirty cloth back and give it a good scrub just to get all the loose stuff off it. It's important here to make sure that you don't have any rust. If you're near the ocean a lot, you'll find that you'll get rust in here, or at least signs of it. If your cloth's still damp like this one is, then this should be a really quick and easy process. And then it's as simple as fitting it back to the camera and the camera will be ready to go again. That's literally it, guys. Don't be scared to maintain and clean your camera often. I use my gear more than most people will, and at least every 6 months I give mine a once over. At this time, there's a couple of other things I like to do. I like to check to see whether there's any new firmware updates, which there actually is for the Z9, so I'm going to go off and do that. I like to go through my filter kit and give everything a good clean in there and reorganize it, because at times that ends up all over the place. And I like to take everything out of my bag and shake it out. There's no doubt sand and stuff in your bag. I guarantee it. And then you should be right. You should be fine just to get back into it and love your camera gear and use it. You shouldn't have to send your camera to like a camera clinic super often. You should have the skills and the confidence to maintain this just like I just did. It only takes 5 minutes if you're not explaining it to someone. And your camera gear will love you forever. I mentioned before, one thing I've been incredibly careful with for the life of my modern cameras is what's on my hands when I touch them. I have had cameras that have had 2 and 3 sets of rubber on them, so all of this grip rubber, because there's particular chemicals in stuff like sunscreen and in bug spray, like mosquito repellent, that absolutely loves to eat and soften rubber. So just be really careful and your gear will last you a long time. That's it. I'm going to make sure before I put this video up that the sensor cleaning kits, the dust blower, all of the things you need are on my online store. I would really appreciate you getting that stuff from me. All the little bits and pieces add up and allow me to do these kinds of videos and put time into creating educational content for you. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. It's a bit of a boring topic, but it's a bit of education that I think everybody could do. Hit the subscribe button. I've got some more cool stuff coming up, and I will see you next time.